All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 72nd episode of The Get Down. My name is Cream.
Gary W. here.
We have a very, very special guest this week. None other than Scooter. Scooter, what's up, man?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Now,
I was telling Kareem before that I can't see your name without thinking about the drop that you used at the beginning of your edits, like back in the day. Every time I hear Scooter, I think of that drop for whatever reason.
Is it the one that's like Scooter? That one?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And, so funny story. Number one, 7 is my favorite number. So, and I wore that my entire baseball career. So it's double 7. It's good. It's good vibes off the jump. Number 2, my boys constantly, if I walk into a club or a room, they will load one of those up and just be like cut the fader real quick and go Scooter and then go right back like as like a what's up, and they laugh, and it's like I'm like, oh hey, what's up, guys? Like it's literally like all the time they still do that. Like, so I love that you thought that too, because
you stuck that in the beginning, right, of the beginning of your edit.
Yeah, because so that was a thing back then. Like it was like a phase, because like everybody, it was like the dawn of like kind of like mashups being really popular, like the AM era. And there was a lot of like bootleg crap happening where like people were claiming like credit for edits. So I think like 1 or 2 people started doing that, and then it was like, well, I had these drops from the radio station with my name, and the dude, his name was Jeff Berlin. It's still a voice guy now, but he was doing like voice radio for a ton of stations, and he's the voice of Grand Theft Auto, which was dope. Wow. And I was like, yo, like, I'm going to put this at the beginning of my drops. Like, I think I had Scoop and like Lil Jon too, but like that one, he has a voice that's like, it's like Optimus Prime almost. It just was like very specific, and I didn't hear anybody else using it. And I was like, I feel like this makes me unique. But in retrospect, I'm like, it's so annoying because now I have to like cue ahead past my drops of old edits. And I'm like, why did I ever do this? Like, so dumb. But yeah, it's funny. I get that a lot. I love that you also say that. So if I ever see you out, I expect the same like razzing from you guys.
You know what though? It actually worked though, because Gary remembered it and brought it up. And I feel like a lot of the hip hop producers, they all have their little calling cards at the beginning of the beat, and people who don't even produce music, just in their cars listening, they know that it's produced by whoever based on their little
tag, like mustard on the beat ho, and what's the one now, like it's check it to 10, and then who's the dude that does all the Megan stuff now, Lil Juke. It's like
Lil Juke.
Yeah, is that it? That's how you pronounce it? It's like, the beat hot Lil Juke made it. What's Megan say? She says something like that. It's like,
Lil Juke made it.
Yeah. So like it works, and then DJ Khaled just obnoxious. Like it's just over the top with it. But yeah.
So all you guys listening, I mean, I'm sure if you go into your Serato, you're gonna have probably multiple edits and remixes from Scooter. I do their regular rotation. I love when you send me a little text and you give me a little music drop. It always makes me happy. But so how did you really get into creating edits first? I know you had said that you were trying to like curate your own sound and your own style. So how did that really come to be?
I was like 14, and I was doing birthday parties for my classmates with some Radio Shack equipment. And then I was listening to like local radio at the time, and like heard like certain versions of stuff that like, it was like songs that was out, like, but it was different. And I was like, what version is the DJ playing, and I wasn't working at the radio station then, but I was like so curious. And then like my parents had a like PC, like, dial up crap, and it was like I think it was Windows 95. I'm pretty sure it was Windows 95, and it had a program called Windows Wave Editor, which is single track. And I was like, oh, like a program you can mess with music, but you had to like record everything in like and turn it into a WAV file, like, and it was only single track. So if I needed to like mess with stuff, you had to like copy it from like another source page in the program, find the cue point with the spacer, and then like paste over top. And then it was like drum loops. I was like, oh, let me put like this drum loop over it, and like It was way over 0 dB. Like it was so distorted, but like I'd be like, okay, like if I can mix it and then go to the next time the 8 bars runs out and like paste it again, like I have like a new remix. But if it would ride off, I'd had to undo. So it was like the most shittiest, like ghetto like way of editing music. But I didn't know, like nobody taught me. I didn't have a mentor to tell me anything. So I was just like figuring it out. And then I got an internship at a radio station right out of college. And like instantly that changed because I was like, oh my God, like this is how radio works. Like the one week I was calling and trying to win free concert tickets. The next week I'm interning there. And I was like, this is ridiculous. It's like the curtain was like opened and they showed me like Cool Edit Pro in the studio because I had to learn how to edit callers and stuff. And I was like, yo, multi-track. I was like, what? They couldn't get me out of the production studio. Then any free time I had, they're like, why is the intern in there? Like, I need it for a commercial. I'd be like, sorry guys, like, I'll leave you alone. Like, would leave and come back at like 2 a.m. and be in there just like tinkering around and stuff. It was wild. That's kind of how I got into it. And then like it was just like self-taught. Like then I like got a, allegedly I got an illegal copy of Cool Edit Pro for the home and just continued it there and then I figured stuff out. But like MIDI and all that was like way down the road. Like that didn't even exist to me then. It was still like recording things into a DAW, not being able to warp them. Like it was just elementary school, stuff. But it was the best way to learn because if you can do it with like the minimal gear, it's like DJing with vinyl, it's like with your eyes closed. Like if you can mix 2 records together that is constantly moving and riding off, like then you can do it with technology with your like with one hand. So like it was a good way to learn, but I was on some janky shit for a lot of years, bro.
Yeah, you got to make a lot of bad music before you start making good music.
I used those same computer speakers until like 7 years ago. I still was using those Windows 95 computer speakers. And what's wild about that is nobody believes me. And I took a photo of them before I got rid of them. But like my ears got so tuned to like making things sound good on this like 3-inch plastic paper speaker that like when I got proper monitors, like I was like, oh my God, like what was I missing? But like if you can make it work on shitty stuff, like when you get good stuff, you feel like you're driving a Ferrari. You're like, there's frequencies I never heard before. You know what I mean? Like goes all the way up to like inaudible frequencies in the high end range and like so low that like, makes your stomach bubble, but it's like crazy. It's like changed my life.
It's
I don't know why
you say
I
that
didn't do
because
it.
that's how I download my music just with my regular laptop speakers. I rarely put it on my monitors or anything. I'm figuring like if it sounds good on my computer speakers, then it's going to bump. Like if I'm into it, if it sound, if it's a song I'm into. So yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of why I do it that way. Because just like if I'm into it on these speakers, it's going to be really, really good when I start to play it.
And it's weird now. Like now they're doing separate masters for streaming and for like lossless distribution, like for like titles and stuff, because they feel like the streaming listener like will get a better experience if we're like tuning it specifically for like AirPods and laptop speakers or whatever, which is wild, but like it makes sense. I mean, that's someone told me a long time ago, like if you can, like I'll do a master on here, go to the car, always car test, legit, you have to do that. And then the club, and you might be like, oh, like the frequency, like I'm always rechecking stuff. Like even after I put it out, I'm like, shit, man, like that one note like sounds a bit louder. But then if you can get it to sound good on your laptop speakers, like that's kind of the last test. Like let me listen to it on like some flat, no bass speakers. If it sounds good on all those, like it's a winner. Like it's like cool, final test. But I don't. It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes I do shit and I'm like, it doesn't really sound good on these laptop speakers. Like what did I miss? And then I want to go back in and like redo it, and then people already have it and play it, and I'm like, fucked up, bro. Just should have done it.
Are you car testing your edits still too?
Yeah. It's like a thing I did like when I was like way back. It was just like, you have to, like, I'll go Starbucks just to go car test something. Like, you know what I mean? I'll be like, all right, I think this is pretty close. Like, let me go grab a coffee, take 15 minutes, and like I'll turn this shit up in the car and be like, okay, like what am I hearing? Like that I'm not hearing in the studio, whatever. So it's like you have to do that.
Yeah. I've gotten to a point now where in my car, I know the exact volume to put it to, because that's kind of where I always test it. And if it sounds good, then I'm like, all right, now we got to try it tonight.
Yeah, the balance too I learned is like iPhone volume balance. Like you can get the iPhone at about like 80% is a good area before like the iPhone kind of like distorts it a little bit. So like, and then your car volume like somewhere as loud as you need it. But like the volume on the iPhone all the way up out of Dropbox doesn't give you accurate sound. So I've learned like, okay, iPhone like between like 75, 80% volume, and then you can adjust the car based on whatever car volume you're working with. But I learned that too, because sometimes I have it all the way up. I'm like, this shit, I want to hear this shit loud. And I'm like, something doesn't sound right. And then you back it off on the iPhone or whatever. And you're like, okay, also not Bluetoothing it makes a difference. Like direct wire with the iPhone cable, it's so much better of a determination. Like, because the Bluetooth, it screws up frequencies so bad. So I learned that lesson too. It was by accident because I was Bluetoothing it, and then I had to plug it in to charge it, and I was immediately sounded different. And I was like, whoa, like this sounds different. Like, and I was like, okay, for future, always plug it in with a hardwired Apple cable for highest sound quality. So yeah, it makes a difference.
All right. So you're making all these edits, right? And you're kind of pasting stuff together. I when I started DJing, I got into edits also because I felt like, all right, if I'm opening rooms, I want to make music specifically for that time of the night, right? And I want to put my stamp on it because I like certain sounds and I think it'll fit at this point. So when you started to actually like release your music, what was your strategy in like getting it out into the world? At least edits early on.
I was like, please, somebody listen to this.
But were you like sending people emails? Were you like burning CDs? Were you just playing in the club, or like what was the?
Yeah, I mean, it's like playing out, and at like, you know, this was early, like I was playing like local dive spots, like, to be honest with you. And then like I did some radio mix show stuff, like but it was just like online free DJ forums. Like there was this forum called Jimix, which isn't around anymore, obviously, but it was like that. And there was just some free like random DJ forums. And there's people that I met on that forum that I still talk to this day, which is wild. But it was like here. There was just like a sharing thing. And I just wanted like feedback, because it's like you do stuff and you're like, okay, like it would be like one or two comments like on a forum, and you'd be like, somebody likes this. Like it was like so gratifying. And I was like, oh my God, like somebody actually doesn't think this is shit. Like, you know, so it's like that would just like fueled me to make more. And I was like, oh my God, like positive peer feedback was like, before there was social media the way it is, it was like, oh my God, like these are people who like don't really know me, just my screen name and my name on there. And it was like, they're not sugarcoating it. They could be like, this sucks, like whatever. And they were like, this is good, like, or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm not
Somebody
terrible,
actually
maybe.
likes it.
Yeah. So I was like, this is kind of addicting, like, you know, like getting feedback. So that's kind of how that started. And then, you know, man, a lot of stumbles along the way. Like I made some shitty stuff, and even some of that old stuff that is like still on my back catalog, I listen to now. It's still like is great ideas, but I'm like, what was I thinking with that? Like I had no semblance of like clashing frequencies back then. It was people were just like throwing stuff over top of each other, like drum loops on drum loops with like, oh my God, it was like some of that stuff. Now I'm like, what was I thinking?
Yeah,
like,
I'm raising my hand too.
because people
Like,
were just
terrible.
like putting like, I don't know, man. It was just like Billie Jean drums on everything, and then it was, which is fine, like or like whatever it was like stacks on stacks and stacks, like shit was out of key. You know, people were like, well, AM put like this song and this song together, so like let me just try this song and this song, and didn't even like, they weren't even aware of keys back then. Like I'm like, you don't hear that? Like it doesn't sound right. But I didn't know like the specifics of why, but I wasn't the authority at that time either. So I was like, we all did some dumbass shit with edits. Like some of the stuff I'm like, what was I thinking? Like I wish it was unreleased, like could unrelease it. It's deleted like a global delete from everyone's Serato. I wish it was like this file will self-destruct in 10 days. Like I never released it. It never happened. Like it's terrible, but it's a good learning lesson. You know what I mean? Like
I
It's
feel
good to
you
go
though.
back.
Like
Yeah.
back
Go
in
ahead,
the
Gary.
day was wild. Like I would do this. I'd be trying to create something live and not understand why the vocal would like miss like a little bit down the song. I'm like, all right, it sounds great. It sounds great. And then like the vocal just goes off track, but it's because just wasn't aware of what keys were at that point, you know, not musically trained in any way, you know,
and like
just
warping too. Like if you're doing live blends, like you can sit there and like you could adjust with the vinyl back then, but like when you're doing it in the studio, like I was like, you know, you get to like the second verse and you're like I think that it's going off. It's going off. You're like, fuck. Like, you're like, how do I fix that? And I'd have to like chop the file and like move it. There was no warping back then. So you're like, splice, like move it, splice, move it. Some of those old edits, I like the sessions were ridiculous. Like there was the live, you know, there were live drummers on the original track. So it was like, there was like 35 splices of the vocal. And it was just me like, trying to get her into the pocket. And I was like, oh my God, it was so bad. There wasn't like flags in Ableton. You could just be like, fix it. It was like manual slices in the program. And like, then you play it back and be like, I don't know. It was a lot of work. I can't believe I did that. Like thinking about it gives my head like so bad, dude. So bad.
I got a question for both of you guys. Cause like, what was your first, because Kareem, I never asked you this. What was your first like encounter with a like a mashup or an edit or like a, you know, whatever you want to call it? Because I'll just real quick, like mine was like mixtapes, like hip hop mixtapes back in the day when like they'd put like some kind of like dope drums over an R&B, female R&B vocal, you know? I think probably like 5th or 6th grade, like carrying on the basketball court, like out in the street, you know, I mean, like, what the hell is that? Where did that come from? And how does it get done? I think that's kind of what inspired me then to jump into DJing at such an early age, just hearing things like that. But yeah, what were your guys' first experiences with that?
Well, Cream, you can go ahead.
I don't really remember, man. I would say I was doing a lot on the internet, like finding these random websites that would post like new music and a lot of mixtapes and a lot of stuff like that. And I feel like I stumbled across like bootymashup.com or something like that. That was like 8 tracks in one. And I was like, this is kind of crazy. I don't know if I like it or not, but it's pretty cool, whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think like, to be honest, before I even like have like a recollection to like listen to DJs on the radio, which was in retrospect, there was a lot of funky mix and Altamix, X mix type stuff that not when I learned what they were using. But I think just downloading music from like Napster, every now and then it would be like unlabeled, but it'd be like remix, and like it'd take you like an entire day to download it. But every now and then it'd be like, oh, drums
Something
on
sick.
50 Cent in the club, or you'd be like, you know, whatever. I'd be like, oh, there's a drum beat behind that. I'd be like, okay, cool. Like that's unique. And I no clue who made it. It was relabeled, like, and then you'd be like, well, let me see if there's other like Soulja Boy remixes, and then you download another file. You're like, okay, now I'm gonna have 2, and you listen to it. It's the exact same remix with a different DJ name on it. Like people are just stealing like ideas. Like, no, I made this. No, I made this. Like, I'm like, son of a bitch. Like, I already have this. Like, it's not DJ this guy. It's DJ this guy. Like, they were just stealing each other's shit. So that was frustrating. But I think I remember that's probably the earliest memory I have of like finding by accident random remixes that were like blends or
definitely like the Napster days for sure. And I still have, I still have stuff in my Serato that I have no clue who made it, but I like it. And like, it's in there. It's just not labeled. It's like you said, like it's 50 Cent in the club, but I have no clue what edit or remix it is, but it's good.
And I'm sad because I had a hard drive that I was using in like 2005 that it like corrupted, and I have like tons of like those things on there from like early DJ career, and I always wanted to like get it like fixed. Like, and it's like, if I can like, I just want to hear, because I found some old CDs the other day, and it just was like, the date, the month and the date, and it was like 2001 or something. And I was put it in, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, yo, this is where the party at. This is that one fucking remix used to run all the time at school dances or whatever. I was like, yo, this like took me back so bad. I was like, there's some like gems if you could like cut them down now that I would still use, you know. I was like, oh man, this takes me back. Like I used to run this freaking remix all the time. Like it just worked. I was just like, yeah, like this would be a cool way to like be like homage to my early DJ career. But I lost a lot of like the old stuff, but yeah, they still work. Some of those remixes would still work, I think, now because everything's new again. So
we found one of Gary's old CD books a couple years ago before he moved to Florida, and we were just like thumbing through it and seeing it. Gary's like, I remember doing this, and I remember it was for this party. And it's crazy how you find that old music and it instantly takes you to a time and a place or a party or a venue, or it's something. And I always talk about this, but I love how music does that to everybody, whether you're a DJ or producer or not. And I think that's
I got some custom vinyl done. It's in my, I should go get it so I can show you, but I took one of my old CDs and I scanned it in like from my CD book, and I like got like a marker font like I would have had, and I put like, it says like Scooter's like Rap Mix 2003, but the 12-inch vinyl looks like one of my old CDs, and I use those like at the club, and like people always are like, oh my God, bro, that's so dope, because everyone instantly relates to that, like the black Sharpie marker on like the CDR, like that just was a time. And I was like, I found out, I'm like, this would be a cool like design for like some vinyl. So I rock that on my tech still. So it just makes me feel like, oh, I remember that era. It's like a good time.
Yeah.
You know,
I actually burnt a 75-minute Serato CD this weekend.
Did you really?
I randomly, because I couldn't find my USB sticks that have all my codes on them. I think I lost them somewhere. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to just burn 2 Serato discs and have them just in case, because I was playing a new venue and I just brought them with me just in case. But that's hilarious.
Yeah, bro, that's a wonderful time. Like it is like, it was wild, but like I learned so many lessons, like, you know, like it's wild. Never like troubleshooting gear and all that. Like it was wild.
So let's fast forward a little bit, right? So right now you can find all Scooter's music on Direct Music Service, but before you were there,
or I have a Patreon too. But
okay, we'll get the links for the Patreon for sure.
Yeah.
What's on the Patreon? You might as well talk about it. Let's what do you got on there?
It's just stuff I don't post on Direct Music Service. It's like personal edits, or like, I don't know, just like like secret stash things. Like sometimes I put edits up there that I've been using for personal edits for like many years, and I'm like, you know what, like I'll let this one go. Like, you know, I've been using it for a while, like, or I forget that I'm like, oh, I'm like, I'll play out and I'll be like, you know what, like maybe this would be cool to put on Patreon, because I want people to feel like it's special. Like, you know, it's not I do just as much like effort on those edits too, but there's also things you just can't get for some other reasons.
If you are a full-time DJ and this is what you do, I think all like you and Beat Breaker and who else has a Patreon? Conflict has a Patreon. Like that's money.
Nick Bike.
Yeah, Nick Bike puts out so many dope edits. That's money well spent, because it's almost like you're getting exclusive edits that nobody else can get on the record pool. So if you guys don't know what Patreon is, we'll put the link in the show notes for sure. Go check it out. And yeah, man, get some exclusive Scooter stuff.
How do you choose like what's going to Direct Music Service and like what you're going to hold on for yourself? Is it just like a gut feeling, or is there like some kind of formula that you're
I mean, sometimes it's artist based, just you know, based on like some of the stuff going on with I'm not going to say too much about it, but some of the stuff going on in the politics of record pools right now, I would say, is a good way to put it. So there's specific artists, I guess, you know, lean towards for that reason. And I'll leave it at that. But sometimes I'm like, no, this feels like a Patreon edit. Like it's kind of like a quick little idea, or like a quick tone play. Like I made one in Vegas, like when I was out there on Wednesday, and I was like, this is kind of like, it was like a tone play from like, I don't even know. We were sitting around a table, a bunch of DJs, and I was like, you know what that freaking like Doja Cat song sounds like to me? And I was like, Rugrats. And they were like, oh, I could hear that. So I just like did a tone play it was like do, and then it goes into the beginning, and they were like, yeah. And I'm like, that kind of feels like a Patreon edit. Like it's like a quick little like thing you could just drop cold echo out of or whatever. And it's like, yeah, like it's just like little, sometimes it's like cool little ideas like aka outs, or like sometimes it's just bootlegs that I feel like, I don't know, just I have to like be, there's no formula. It's kind of just like, yeah. Or sometimes I'm like, yo, like these people are paying for my stuff. I can't be slacking. So it's like, I'm like, I need to send them some shit. Like, you know what I mean? It's like they're standing on the corner waiting for the delivery. It's I get busy, man. You know, sometimes it's tough to have time to do both. Like it's really hard. Like this month is insane. So I'm gonna be like on a plane, like trying to make sure everyone on Patreon's taken care of. So
For sure. So I want to get into that because you just brought up like you have so much going on. Gary and I struggle with this too. How do you juggle not only DJing but producing and doing the Patreon and doing private events, and like do you have like a weekly schedule, or is there, how do you juggle everything that you do, and how do you prioritize what gets done?
like I'm like really, I think a lot of people who are artistic can relate to this, but I've always had undiagnosed ADHD my whole life until like after I graduated school. And the guy that like diagnosed me, it was basically like, your results on this test are like off the chart for some of these things. And like I just gathered over time that creatives, like their brain is programmed such a way that like you're so creative that like some of the things that happen in your regular life, like organization, suffer because my brain's always like this. Like even when I'm not trying to think of stuff, like in the middle of the night, like it just like keeps me awake. Like ideas, or like it's hard for me to go out to shopping malls because I hear like a song. I'll be like, oh shit, I should remember that for like this like yacht rock thing I need to make or whatever. It's like it never off. So my brain's always doing that, and sometimes like organizational stuff suffers. So what I did is get a whiteboard with like a weekly schedule, and I at the beginning of every week, like Sunday night, I'll be like, I fill stuff out. And for me, it's just a visual thing. It just helps me kind of like wrap my head around what you got to do that week. And sometimes it's overwhelming. Like today was one of those days, like doctor appointment. I talked to a lawyer today about like a stupid thing with like a wedding. Like then I got in this with you, and then I got to record my mix show. Then I got to do some music. Like it's a lot. And then I fly out to Tahoe at 7:30 a.m. So it's like tough. Like it's definitely tough. And there's weeks I feel overwhelmed, and it's not easy. And I feel like people who aren't in our field look at us as like complaining about that. Like, you guys get to work from home and you have a cool job. I'm like, yeah, but I have a life. Like I can't be only committed to like doing this. I got to eat. I got to, work out, like family, personal time, all that stuff. Like you need to put that in there, or else like your work will suffer, your life will suffer. So it's hard, man. Honestly, it's easy for me to write it out, and then you kind of can see visually like, okay, well, there's no time this week that you put on here for this. Like you need to make time for that. So it's a good way for me to like see it. That's for me that works, but that's not everybody's thing. Some people are very much like Google Calendar. Like I've seen some people's that's like, it's ridiculously organized, and I'm envious of that because I'm like, that would be nice, but that just isn't me. Like I don't think I could consistently do that. It just would be, I'd forget, like all the time I'd forget. So yeah, I just write it out. For me, I put a whiteboard. Yeah, old school. Like,
yeah, that's me. I'm the one who writes everything out and needs to do it that way, and then Kareem's the calendar guy in his phone and on the computer.
Yeah,
I mean, my calendar, my gig schedule is there because a lot of times you get hit up at like random times, like, hey, are you available on this date? And I have it, but like the other stuff doesn't. Like some stuff that's like, if it's personal, like, and I like share it with like other people and like the family or whatever, like I'll put it on there a certain color so it pops up on them, and like I know like that they know like, yes, we're all getting dinner, it's mom's birthday, or that stuff. So there's that, it's useful for sure, but not I miss stuff too. Like today I was a train wreck. Like I got my times all mixed up with the doctor's appointment, and the lawyer thought I was calling her at a different time. I was like, oh shoot, like you messed this all the way up today. So.
No, man, everybody has their own system, but like you have to have some sort of system. And I think, like you said, especially planning your personal stuff, like the gym or dinner with family, like I have to put that in my calendar too, because if I don't, I get sidetracked with whatever million things that are coming across my plate on a daily basis. And like, that's really important to me, is to make sure I'm taking care of me and still spending time with my family and my girlfriend and the people that I need to go spend time with. So I think that's
because I think
important.
like I think it in unintentionally also like puts it on the same importance level when it's in there. Like if you don't put it in there, then like it like is sort of like not giving it the same attention, and that just leads to like issues. Like if you're not taking care of all the other stuff that you should be taking care of, like it's going to catch up to you in some way, you know? So it's like, I think it's good to like have everything on like equal importance, even if it's like running to the gym or like, you know, I need to go do this. Like it's important that I schedule time to do XYZ. Like, even though it sounds stupid to put those types of things on calendar, like call dad or whatever, like you should do that because it's there. And then you see it, you're like, yeah, fuck. Like, let me put down this like edit, like, you know, even though you're like in the zone, it's like, all right, I gotta call dad. Like, all right, let me call dad. You know what I mean? It's like, it's good to put that stuff in there.
It's funny when like you had mentioned before, like being in the mall and hearing a song, I have to email myself or put it in a note or put it somewhere because I would never remember it. And I always tell people like, yo, if you think of something, just write it down or make a voice note or do something. You know, even like a melody, like humming a melody in the voice note or something, super helpful. And
it's so obvious. It happened in Vegas last week, and I was out. I was like at Lil Jon Jewel on Monday, and something happened. It was something like mundane, but it was like my mind thought of something like in the moment, and I was like, oh, that's so obvious. Like you're never gonna forget that, and every single time you always do. So you always have to write it down because like it seems like there's no way I'm gonna forget that, and you always do. Like, you know, it's like this to that, this idea to this idea, or like, oh, I want to make a remix of this. You're like, I'm never going to forget that. Like it stands out so big to me in this moment. Like it's just tomorrow. And then you forget, you go to bed and you're like, wait, was it Rompe or you're like, was it Snappy? Like, you just like, your mind does that to you. So yeah, writing it down in the moment is always a good reminder. Even if it's like one word, like, you know, this to this, you're like, cool. Like tomorrow your brain will like click it. But if you don't, I always forget and I hate myself for it. And then it'll come back when you're DJing like 8 months later and you're like, I remember. It's my brain works weird ways. So yeah.
So I want to bring up Kirkland Clan because it's a platform that you were on and you were crushing on. And I kind of jumped on the very tail end of what it used to be, at least. So can you describe to people like what the Wild West of Kirkland Clan and Crack for DJs was years ago?
Yeah, at the time, like it was just well, there was other record pools online later, but like at the infancy of Kirkland Clan, it was just pretty much, I would say, like an all-star team of like music for DJs. Like, and it was kind of like the Billboard chart for DJs, you know, like there was nowhere else to like find these like impeccable versions and tools for us. And at the time it was like DJ Am was on that website, who I still to this day feel like was like the flagship leader of open format and helped all of us get paid much more money, and we still owe him a lot. But he was on there, and so like if he ever like blessed us with like a couple edits, it was a thing. But then everybody else, like it gave the whole site legitimacy too, because there was other guys from East Coast, West Coast, and we would all do like 2 or 3 edits a week or remixes, and that was it. It was like very small. Like we only do 2 or 3, and you knew that everybody was making stuff that was good. Like Ferrugio was on there, Rocket Scientist, Anthem Kings, Beat Breaker, Nova, like, you know, the list was like DeVille, like Homie,
all the guys who have their own are on, you know, they have their own exclusive.
Yeah, now you see them on other record pools as like exclusive editors, but like at the time, because you like it's like taking, like someone said this the other day, and I didn't think of it like this, but it makes sense. It's like you took like the USA basketball team, and then like everyone goes back to their home teams, or like they all get traded at the same time. It's like, oh shit, like Michael Jordan's playing over here now, and like Pippen's over here. It's like it's like kind of felt like that, after it went away. We all have like gone on to do our own things. I think everyone's kind of carved their own path, like for being DJs. I mean, like the careers have all been different ways. Some people more than others, but at the time we were all on that same website, which is wild to think about, because I feel like it could still be around today if like it had been handled properly, which would be wild to think of. Like, instead of all of us subscribing to like 5 pools, if we were all still on one, like that would be wild. Like that would just be like,
you could definitely
amazing.
charge a premium as whoever running that site for sure.
Yeah, because now it's just like either homies drop boxes or like you're subscribing or whatever. And it's like, I feel like it's good to be well rounded. I feel like you have to be like, you shouldn't just only subscribe to one record pool for sure. I mean, I DMS all day long, but like there's other shit out there, like there's video pools, like whatever. So it's to be a well-rounded DJ. Like I don't have enough time to make enough for all you DJs, and sometimes other people think differently. So it's good to have that like balance. But yeah, that time was like the best. And then sadly, I think that when AM passed, if you look at the trajectory of music, I feel like it really changed because he was like the flagship and steering that whole boat. And then there was nobody really to like step up. Like I think Vice was like the guy on the bench that everyone was like, well, you seem like the next obvious fit, but Vice is Vice. He's not AM, and AM was AM. Like Adam was so unique. He had a New York history, he had a Philadelphia history. So I didn't know him either. Like I knew Kevin Scott, but I didn't know him. So it was just like Adam was Adam. And then I felt like would still be pushing the music forward, and we'd also be getting more checks. Like then, because at the time, like everybody's money increased, like because of him. Because if he sets the standard, like that's the pay scale. Like it's way up here. And if you're always evolving, like even if you're like middle of the road, it's trickle down. You know what I mean? And then when he passed, like God rest his soul, is like I think the bookers were like, well, this EDM thing kind of seems like it's popping, like, and all these dudes popped up that were doing EDM, and it was like that was the new wave, and a lot of guys got checks in Vegas and stuff that probably didn't rightfully deserve it, but we're like
riding the wave,
riding the wave, man. Yeah, that was a long-winded answer. I'm sorry about that, but
it's incredible. Like when AM would like play a different genre, all of a sudden, like every DJ felt like it was okay to then play that genre, and you're right. I feel like that's kind of gone away. Nobody's really picked up the torch, and I don't know, in my eyes, there's not a DJ that I look up to currently that I looked up, like I looked up to AM,
I mean, I play everything. I always have, but I felt like he was the first one to literally like go out on that plank and at the biggest clubs, at the biggest gigs, like with all the celebrities in the room, that Palms, like in Vegas.
Yeah.
And be like, fuck this, watch this shit. Like,
right. That's what it was. Zero fucks.
Yeah. I'm doing Beyonce and Come On Eileen and into I Love Rock and Roll and Wonderwall. And it's on 5 minutes and I'm cutting the shit out of it. Like, and you're going to dance to it and everyone's having a good time. And if one of us motherfuckers would have done that, the guy probably would have come up to us in the VIP host and been like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? But it was like, it's AM. Like, you're going to let him do it. Like, all these celebrities are here to see him. Like, he's dating Nicole Richie. Like, there's a lot of money passed through this place because of him. Like, and then people just it became acceptable then. Like, he made it okay. And he was the first one to step out. So I feel like we owe him so much, like forever and always. Like, I always feel like that. Like he was a little bit older than me. He took the risk for all of us. And like, sadly he passed. And I just feel like terrible about that. I just feel like I'll forever be indebted to him. Like whatever that means, like I'm putting out into the universe and just letting him know, like, yo, dude, I owe you. Like he's just the dude. He was the dude. Like it was a good time. Like, and a lot of us owe a lot to him for that. So definitely in like house music too. Like now people are playing like open format house sets. So it's like, music's at that place now. You can jump around and do hip hop and house and, Moombatone. And I just feel like that was kind of all on the precipice of him playing rock and hip hop and electro and stuff, you know, like Daft Punk. And because I don't remember any other dudes doing that at the time. Like,
do you see yourself as someone who's kind of needs to carry the torch now? I mean, you've been in the game for a bit, you've played all the biggest spots, and you've done pretty much huge remixes, edits, like you've done it all. Do you kind of look at it as, all right, maybe this is my time to step in and kind of show some of the younger guys the way, or help increase the rates at the market as a whole? Or do you look at that way or no?
Internally, I want to, like, for sure. I'm always playing the balance in my head between, like, I'm always like falling back on like humble me, and that's kind of always a walk through life. But at the same time, because it's such a circus in the booking community now, like with DJs, and there's a lot of people like just like stepping in, like I almost feel like it makes me have the need to speak up, or like, you know, I'm to be honest, it's tough to go to Las Vegas or like have name your artists like come to your city like last week, and like Little John started his set last week in Vegas unannounced. I had no, like, he knew I was there, but his first song was like a fucking Aka In I made in like 10 years ago. And I was like, yo, like what? Like this dude's getting paid like, I know whatever the money is, but like in my mind, I'm like, I still feel really grateful about that. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm not like a resident in Vegas, and like that's a goal on my list. So there's like a discrepancy with like some of that math in my head. I'm like, all these DJs fuck with me and show me love, and it's gratifying, and I love helping other DJs. That's why I do it. But at the same time, there's definitely some things I feel like I need to check off the list in order for me to feel like I've made it. And like definitely like getting into like, I'd like to like rotate through Vegas like quarterly or like whatever. And it's like, because I go to these rooms and I'm like, yo, like I can do that. Like it's no shade on whoever's DJing. I'm just like, I put in all this work. Like, don't I deserve that at some point? Especially if like you're paying these headliners like more than my house to go DJ for 2 hours, and they're playing like 4 or 5 of my edits while I'm standing in the club. Like, can I open, or like, like let me get a Tuesday night in Vegas or some shit, like it's like, if they're good enough to play my shit, why am I not good enough to play my own shit? Like, that's kind of how I see it. And it took a lot of DJs like in my ear about that, like, bro, like you deserve it. Like, and I'm like, nah, like, I'm just like humble. I'm like, nah. But then like, it's like so many DJs from across the country, like little comments, and you're like, you know what? Fuck it. Like I do deserve that. Like, and that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, I'd love to get in some of those bigger rooms. And that's the only thing I haven't, that's on my list. It's one of my own things on my list I want to do. So that's where I'm at now. But I also feel like I need to like help younger DJs not be idiots, like, and conduct themselves with like how to open, like, whatever. Like it had to happen the other day. Like I was about to go on, and this young kid was opening for me, coming up, and he's like in Philly, and I loaded up, I did an edit of like ABC DEFU, and I put it over like Heads Will Roll, and I Love It Too, and I loaded it up right next to his laptop, and I'm like, he's like, are you ready? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, yo, I'm gonna go into this. It's like 128. This motherfucker plays that Heads Will Roll like right before I went on, like literally the song and I just looked at him like with this face. I was like, are you for real? Like, he was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, he realized he messed up. But that's the type of stuff I want to be like, maybe I need to like have lunch with some of these people and be like, yo, man, like there's certain ways to conduct yourself. Like we're now like the older generation. So it's like, I remember being young and naive, and like, maybe you just don't know what you don't know. But there's also a lot of dudes that are younger and like way cocky without having put the work in. And it's really easy to kind of like fake it on Instagram now. And like, you know what I mean? Like you see it in New York and Jersey a lot, I'm sure. Like there's these people that on the come up, and they kind of like puff their chest out, and you're like, bro, like we've been doing this for like, like we played in that club when it was this and then different name, like, so I feel like I definitely want to be like an educator too, and I want to like make sure people know that they're doing things the right way and kind of learn a little bit of the history. You know, I hate being like back in my day type shit. That just sounds old. But like at the same time, like I was putting out open format and like trying to help that out before, you know, when it was cool, and then it became uncool because electro and house got big, and now it's cool again. It's like some of those younger kids don't even know that. They were like, why are you booking these old guys and shit? It's like, what? Like, it's just wild, bro. Like, come on, I'm trying to help you out. Like, it's just wild. You get that reaction sometimes, but yeah, I definitely want to be like a steward. But there's a lot of other dudes that are. You could put like 20 of us up there, and if we all could be helping each other, like younger kids, and yeah, I mean,
it's tough because like you like. You walk a fine line of sounding like the old guy, get off my lawn. But you also, I think these guys also need to understand that like we're putting our best foot forward to try to, you know, make them successful. And you have to take the criticism, you know, if you're going to be in this industry, you got to take criticism, right? It's something we tell our younger guys all the time. You know, you're not going to have a great set every set. So you're walking a fine line of like, you sounding like the old guy in the room, but you know, trying to help these guys along and not make the mistakes that we made. You know,
it's not necessarily about like being the old guy though. It's just you know, you guys have spent more than me. You have the years in the game, and the best way to learn in this game is to experience certain things. Because the next time when you go through something, you actually deal with it, whatever it might be. The next time you're in that situation, if you've learned from what happened the last time, you're going to do it the right way, and then it just carries through. And that's the only way to really get good in this world, is to live through it and fuck up in the club and fuck up on a transition, or the music shuts off and you figure out what the hell you're going to do. Like, unless it happens to you, you don't know how to react to it. And so, yeah, like I think the experience is what's the most important thing for us to pass on to the younger generation of up and coming DJs.
Yeah. I always just tell people like, you know, this is the way I go through life too. It's like never, you're never too like old to learn, like, you know, and like I'm still like a sponge. Like when I get around somebody, like I love asking questions and like production stuff. Like I'm like, oh, like your process, or like, you know, what are you using? Like, what do you prefer on your like your mastering chains, or like, you know, it's like all this stuff. Like I watch people like other people do production, and like they just do it completely different than me. Like they're Ableton set up totally different or whatever, and I'm like, okay, like that's a unique way to do it. Like, is that more efficient than the way I'm doing it? Like, what can I learn from that? Like, I'm never like, you fucking crazy, like why the fuck do you do it like that? Like, you don't do it like me. It's like, no, you should be like, always have your mind open to learning. It's just like, you can just go through life picking up so much more things if you have that attitude, as opposed to like, man, fuck that guy, like blah blah blah, like, you know, like he's old, or like they're young, like it, you know, I don't know, like that attitude will just like leave you out so much money in good relationships, and you never know, like you can be missing like lifelong friends, or like, you know, never know. Like I've had relationships in the industry that I remember thinking like that wouldn't turn into something, and like now they're like 20 years long, you know, or I was scared to death to meet these people, and like now they consider me like a peer, you know. It's like weird. So it's just like always have an open mind. I think that's good advice to give to like younger DJs. And you know, just because your friends tell you like you're the shit doesn't mean that you are. Like, you know, it's like always keep your head below the clouds a little bit, and like be confident, but like there's always room to grow, and
there's always somebody better than you too.
yeah, there's a million better DJs, I guarantee you, on this planet than me. It's just like, but I'm me, and I have carved out my lane, and like I do me. Like, you know, it's like this is me, you know, and you own that shit. Like, so just going through life with that attitude, like I'm the shit, blah 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 blah. It's just like, that's just weird to me. Like, you can be confident without acting like that, you know. That's kind of my thing. Like, maybe that's wrong, and I don't, maybe that's why I'm not playing Vegas, because I'm not going around telling everyone I'm the shit, like, you know. But I'd like to be out there. So I don't know. Yeah. So maybe I need to change my approach.
You gotta do what's like, you're you, right? You're humble, you're confident at the same time, but you're not out there like Kanye, like everybody's different. I think you have to be comfortable being you, and good things are going to come to you. I mean, I don't know. That's just the best way that I could think about it. And I don't know, man. I hope you get that residency in Vegas. You definitely deserve it.
If I see like big shouts to Beat Breaker, because he came up at the same time I did, and I never really sat down with him and like asked him like kind of like how that all happened, but like that was his path. Like it happened for him in a certain way. Like that was his thing. He walked that path. So it's like, if I'm not meant to do it, then I'm not meant to do it. But based on just like what I've gone through, I feel like I could do it. Like I'm capable to do those type of things. So I don't know what needs to change, but I just know if I went through life like changing, being fake and being like a cocky asshole, that wouldn't be me. Because then somewhere down the line, people will be like, he was a cocky asshole, and that makes me cringe because that's not really who I am. So it's like just being me is like, hopefully it works out. It's like good vibes. Like at some point, hopefully like the sun will shine and I'll get the things that I want. That sounds corny, but it's just there's a world going on. I'm trying to be positive.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that like Vegas is kind of the people that hold the key to Vegas are more like all of the agency people? Is that something that you think you want to go back down, or do you think you can do it on your own?
I mean, Vegas, from what I gather, is relationships, and it's not always agency relationships. It's like just talking to like the local homies out there and stuff. Like some of them, like I've known for a lot of years, and it's like, okay, like they live out there, so they can pop out on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And it's like, okay, like the GM sees you in the booth like a couple days a week, and like your homie's DJing, and he's like, yo, like this is my boy, like, and he's good. Like sometimes it's that easy, and he's like, all right, well, we'll try him on Monday next week or like next month or some shit. Like you're like, okay, cool. Like that's your in. Sometimes it's just like a booking agent, like, or, Scam or whoever. It's like they have a room, like they plug you in, like whatever. It's that sometimes it's that. And then other times it's like, there's some guys I know that are literally in positions out there because a family member works somewhere high up in the company in like the corporate office, and they got blessed. So I don't know the correct answer to that, but I'm not sure me pressing like local DJs. That would feel really unorganic for me, but maybe that's the route I need to take, because I don't know the answer to that. I'm not on an agency. It comes
down to network, right? Your network. And
it's relationships. And like, but I can't just like fly from Philadelphia to Vegas every Tuesday and show up in the booth. But like, hi guys, like, will you book me? Like,
right. Like, you're not there. You're not local.
Yeah. But some of the guys out there were like, yo, just gotta come out every now and then. Like, you know what I mean? I'll introduce you to people. I'm like, all right, like, cool. I appreciate that. And that's the like DJ connection. Like there's guys like you that feel the same way, which I'm so like, I can't even express to you like how that makes me feel. Like super humbling. And they're willing to like put their name out there. So I'm like, maybe that's the route I got to take. So that's kind of like, there's guys willing to like big me up. So it's just Vegas. It feels bigger. It's like, it feels like there's this huge corporate machine pushing everything. And like, they have to justify it because they have all this money and they're selling tables and there's hosts and there's hotels. And it's not just like, yo, I'm putting my boy on a, at a local spot. It's like a different machine. So it feels bigger to me when I'm out there. There's so many cogs moving around, guys that think they're important. Like, it's like, there's a lot of money, a lot of important people, a lot of celebrities. It's like, and if they put you on and you suck, like they're going to be like, yo, we lost 30 grand tonight because of this guy. Like, it's different. So
I got a question, like completely opposite of this, like opposite of like Vegas nightlife DJing. Cause we were talking offline and you're saying you're flying out to Cali to do some private event, to do a big private, major private event. In speaking to like educating the younger DJs, I always feel like private events, getting your feet wet in the private event industry makes you such a more well-rounded DJ, right? I mean, is that some advice that you, like, Kareem and I kind of push guys down? Like Angelo the Kid comes to mind immediately because he started out in private events, and then like, you know, at 21, 22, he's playing all this stuff that you don't think that he would be knowledgeable to, right?
Yeah, shout out to him, because I definitely rocked some of his edits like recently. So, you know, shout out to him.
Like, did you start in private events or did you start in nightlife?
Private, because, you know, I was doing like birthday parties for my classmates in middle school with like 2 Walkman and a Radio Shack mixer, and I was charging like $50. Because at the time we'd go to parties, like birthday parties, and like CD changers were like new back then. So like, but no one would pay attention to CDs. I'd be there for 4 hours and we'd hear the same like Jay-Z CD, Linkin Park, Christina Aguilera. And I'm like, yo, like, how am I the only one noticing we've heard this song 3 times tonight? And I was just like, nobody's noticing this shit. Like I've heard this song already. So that's why I like started doing that, you know? And that's how I started. And then I was doing school dances, like my junior year going to the senior year. And when I graduated, I had like 8 or 9 of the local school districts in the area on lock for a couple of years. And I was just like killing it in that. And I started doing weddings, and then I was in bars before I could drink at them. So I started like very young and naive and cut my teeth that way. And then once you start doing like band breaks at bars, and like nightlife was its own learning experience, like drunk people talking to you was the first time. Like I had someone like try to choke me one time at one of my first bar gigs because he thought I was someone that banged his sister. I like looked like a guy. That was interesting. I had to punch him, and the security like carried him out, hit his head, opened the door with his head. But he thought I was someone else. And I was like, this is nightlife. This is crazy. And that was like my first year or 2 doing like bars. So I've had my experiences, like it's a book worth of stuff. And then like you do one like club and you're just like ecstatic about that, you know. But I had that whole background the whole time doing private events, and I continued to do private events like friends' weddings, and then I started being a little more professional with it. But I have that as like a background of DJing always was like privates, and it keeps you balanced because you can't just go in and do your club thing. Like every wedding's different. You got different tastes every wedding, different age demographics every wedding. It like really humbles you as a DJ. Like you can't just be like, I'm gonna go do my DJ Scooter thing tonight at this wedding. Like if you do that, like they're gonna hate you, you know, if you just think you can go in and do whatever you want just because you are who you are. So
do you have like a private event sets that like inspire like a DJ set? Like you find yourself getting like going down like a rabbit hole that like, because you prepped for this wedding last week, like, oh well, this might work in the club. Does that happen to you often? Or
yeah,
I've been out of private events for so long now. Like I
definitely like songs on people's lists, and I'm like, oh yeah, like that'll like that's a good one. But like college age kids right now are continuing to surprise me like with their songs. Like they like disco and stuff, like
ABBA requests all over the place lately,
like all different disco too. It's wild. And it's like there's last week I got one from like someone in the college, like it's a campus like event, like University of Delaware, and like I was like, what the fuck do you know about that song? Like it was the most random shit. When I played it, it went off like the most popular song out right now. It was like the whole crowd was like raging to this, and I was like, what am I missing? Like,
what
is this
song
on TikTok? And I have to look. It was some like weird, it was not weird, but like, you know what, a big song for college kids right now, at least like that around here, is Pump It. Like I know that's been out for a while, but like I see a lot of like frat and sororities like really loving that song, and I'm like, I don't know why, but
wait, like
they
the
love
Black Eyed
that.
Peas song or the house
No,
song?
Endor.
Okay, yeah.
Pump It Up or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, which is kind of like old hat to us, but like it's like pockets of that age demo, like they cling to a song and then like they'll be on TikTok and then like it goes to this university and then like I'm something happened weird with that with when I did that edit a couple of years ago of Natasha Bedingfield, and I'd been playing the original like for a couple of years, but then I was talking to like Lughead and he was like, yo, that's like a Common Ground song. And I was like, what? Like, and then he showed me videos and I was like, so that became like a New York thing, like for that. But I was like, I've been like, I wouldn't have done the edit like if I wasn't playing it, you know? So it's just weird how that shit happens. Like he was like, no, that's like, it's a big Common Ground song. Like we play it there all the time and like it goes off. And I was like, these random things have been happening with these younger age demographics. And it's good because they get, instead of listening to like garbage crap that comes out all the time now, like 80% of the music these days, like they cling to like good music, like 70s disco, and like it's like you get to reintroduce it. We get to do bootlegs of songs we actually like, you know?
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
So it's wild.
Yeah, like I was flying back home to Florida and I heard on the radio at the airport every time We Touch came on, and I was like shocked by like, listen, I know it's played out now like in the clubs and like that like 140 145 BPM stuff, like the younger generation likes that stuff, but then to hear it on the radio was like really, really strange. I felt I was like, this is such a throwback and so odd, but
Yeah,
you know,
it's like new again, especially stuff from like 2010 now is like new. Like it's wild. And I'm not mad. It's just weird. I was like, I played this like in the club when it came out. And now I'm over here making remixes of shit I was playing like 10 years ago, like, which is fine because it breathes new life in it for us. And we already kind of have like a special place in our heart because it's like a time signature in like our DJ career. So like, I don't mind it. And it gives you an ability to like refresh it and stuff. But it's just, it's wild that that's where we are. Like TikTok has kind of changed the game when it comes to like, you never know what's going to come out of that thing. Like you never know it's going to spit out a new hit that's an old hit. You know, it's like every week I'm like, oh, ABBA's got major records like again. It's like 70 years old. Like wild.
I think it's cool though, like the edits and the remixes, how you can put, we'll call it a 2020 taste on any record, you know? And a lot of the house guys are kind of doing that with a lot of that 2010 vocals, like the pop vocals from back then, and refreshing with like tech house, and like that stuff goes off too. It's just, I don't know, that's what always keeps music interesting and fresh to me, is that a song that worked 10 years ago during peak set, the original, you can now like edit into a 2022 tech house remix and it still works in peak, like, or the original works. It's just cool, you know?
Yeah, because like, so for a lot of years, like when I am like low on ideas or something, like I kind of keep like a running list of like redrum ideas that like need to be refreshed because there's this stuff that's like timeless. And like ABBA Dancing Queen was one I did a year or two ago, but like I didn't anticipate it like becoming popular again, like in general. But like there's just a running list of things, and now I'm like, oh man, like you can you really open this up, like just new way to touch on some of that stuff. Like I keep running tabs of like, you know, disco records or like I'm Stevie Wonder, whatever it is. It's just like, well, maybe I can do a remix now instead of just a redrum. But like people always asking me like, we need a solid redrum of this, like because the old one sounds flat next to everything else we're playing. But now I'm like, well, maybe I'll do a redrum and like a tech house remix or whatever. Because it like everyone knows like Ain't No Mountain High Enough, and everybody, those songs will never go away. So why not put the time in and make them? Like,
yeah, for sure. So we haven't talked, we've gone all this time, we haven't really talked about your remixes, but you've made remixes for all these massive pop songs and pop artists: Rihanna, Miley Cyrus, Pharrell, Taylor Swift, a ton of people. And I think something that a lot of our listeners are always asking and wondering, it's like, how do you take that jump from being just an edit guy to being a full-on remixer? How did you go from one to the other? And what's some advice that you can give people that are trying to do that right now?
Well, now it's like easier than ever to kind of like learn with the like make music with the tools that are available. Like we didn't have like Mixed Key, we didn't have
Splice.
YouTube Splice, like we didn't have any of that stuff. And so I had to just kind of like open up like FL Studio and like kind of was like, or Fruity Loops at the time, and was just like, oh, this is MIDI, and like mess around the piano. And like I would sit there like loop a section and be hitting the key like, nope, not a C, it's not a D. Like it just like go through it. And now people like can just jump in and like just like throw stuff on the board, and it's like, oh, it tells you it's in this key. Like it's a lot easier to kind of jump in, and the tutorials are ridiculous on YouTube. Like Ableton has built-in tutorials now. Like it's so much easier to do it. So I would just encourage people to like jump in. And I would like also try to like replicate something for your own learning, but don't then turn around and like if you're trying to replicate like a tech house remix, like try to remake it for learning, but then like move on and try to make something your own. Like there's a lot of copycat stuff going on right now, like in music. So like you don't want to be a copycat. Like music's always looking ahead. So you want to try to be like hone your skills, but always be trying to like learn new stuff and get ahead of it. Not learn like Avicii stuff from like 10 years ago. Like maybe for your own learning ability, but like don't try to just like everyone be like a craze right now, like, and it's just a lot of that. It's been going on for, it's like music, like twerk was the thing that like 3-year run, like then there's this and it was this and it was this, like Moombatone had its thing, like, and everything still works, but like tech house is like now it, and it's like, just always keep your mind open and then put your own little flair on it. Don't try to just be like a carbon copy of someone, because like most industry people will tell you like, I've already heard that. Like, that they hear a voice and it's like, that's a unique voice. Like they deliver it different. But if you sound just like Eminem, like we have an Eminem, like, we have a Tiesto, like we have we have the Chainsmokers. Like, don't try to be exactly somebody else. Like just learn and then like put your own flavor to it. Like maybe you're from Jersey and Philly and you do a little bit of like Jersey club, like, or like, it's like, make your own thing. Don't be somebody else, but definitely learn. Like when I don't have a lot of free time, but if people are just getting into it, you have a few hours, go on YouTube and learn like how to make tech house, and dive in, because it's so easy to dive in now. And before me and you and everyone else didn't have those tools. Like I would have saved 10 years of my life. Trust me, if I had those tools, like maybe
Yeah.
maybe I'd be in Vegas. Like,
to kind of piggyback on that. So like what advice would you give a DJ trying to break into the nightlife industry?
Definitely just go out. Like, so I used to go out and like observe and like just like be humble. And now I think DJs are just innately territorial, and it's worse now because there's so many of them. So I would definitely like reach out on some like humble shit to people and just be like, let's get lunch, like get to know some of these people and like ask questions, like humble yourself that way. Because if you come in with that attitude to an OG, like it's going to be different than you show up to the club and be like, yo, I'm also a DJ. Like it comes off wrong. Let's just like, okay. Like if someone said, you get that all the time. Like, yo, I DJ too. Like, or like, I'm a rapper. Like you should listen to my shit. It's dope. You're like, all right, your attitude's all the way fucked up already. Like, I don't even want to talk to you. Like, you know what I mean? But if you come at someone on some humble stuff, like, hey, I'd really like to pick your brain. Like, do you have a free moment on a Zoom call? Or like, can we grab lunch? Like, I feel like it already puts like, you're already like laying down as far as like your attitude. And I think like for OG people that are already kind of like skittish about taking on like all these new fangled, everyone's a DJ things, like that would land a lot better than you walking in with 10 of your friends who all tell you you're the shit, and to a guy who's DJing at the club and you're off that night telling them how good you are. It's like something looks wrong about this picture. You know what I mean? Just like, because I think all of us like want to play and all of us have gigs, and I think I'm much more willing to help somebody else out that's like comes off with like a good attitude than like somebody who comes in entitled. Like, you know, it's just like, why am I going to put you on? You'll probably try to like get me fired or some shit, or like take my night, or like, you know, it's like, it's just different. Cause I see that happen a lot. Like they just come in guns a blazing, and I'm like, that's not going to bode well for you later. Cause if all the other DJs in that area like think you're a dick, like it's not going to work out. You might get that gig, but like no one's,
you're going to burn bridges down the road.
yeah, they need to fill in last minute, or like, you know, you're out of town or you're doing a wedding, and it's like, all right, well, who am I calling? And it's like, definitely not that guy, because fuck him, you know, like as opposed to like, no, he's cool, like he's reliable, like he's humble, like he'll do a good job, and I know he's not going to like try to snake my gig, like, and you be willing to talk up for him too, like, yo, we're going to start Thursday, like, do you guys have recommendations? You're like, this guy, this guy, this guy. Like that always happens. If I can't do something, I'm already booked, or it's like something comes up, I'm like, boom, 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 boom. Like I have like 4 or 5 guys, like I know that can play any room. They're not dicks. Like, and I'll constantly add more to that if people, you know, are humble, but I'm like, like red flag there, red flag there. Like you're scared because you put your name on the line for somebody, and then what if they screw you? Like that could ruin your relationship for the club. Like it's you know, it's tough out there these days, man. There's a lot of people like trying to get on, and it's like my back of my mind, I'm like, am I fully willing to put my name on the line for somebody, like for this dude, like, and it goes wrong? Like there's a lot of pressure to that. So yeah, just stay humble and like be willing to learn, and come like watch the DJ play for a couple nights, and like I think that'll land better with if younger people came up like that, as opposed to just like, I don't need people. I have an Instagram and I got 10 friends that come to the club every time I play, and I don't need you old guys. I'm skipping over you. Like, I don't know. Some at some point those guys will be controlling like the GM position, because we retired, and like, you know, or whatever, like, you know, it's like eventually like that shit comes around. So just feel like it's better just kind of like
sounds very familiar to things that are said on this podcast so often.
Yeah,
really?
Definitely.
At least for me and Gary. I mean, you know, we're booking a lot of DJs every month at this point, and we're meeting I tell Gary, I'm like, yo, like 5 people hit me up this week about that I never heard of. Like, and I just tell them all the same thing. Like, we like to work with the people that we like and we get good vibes from. And if you could DJ on top of that, then all right, maybe we could work together. But like,
right,
that other stuff comes first, to me, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I'm an alien in that sense. And I was, like I said, I was on another podcast this week, and it's like a lot of the same things come up. And I think it's just me, because I just walk through life like that. It's like I can very quickly, it's like a sixth sense. Like I'm like, oh, like good vibes. Like I can tell that with people so quick. And it makes such a difference. Like if I can like shoot the shit with someone, we laugh, like they're trustworthy, like it makes a huge difference, because I'm like, no, like absolutely, I'm texting him, like, you know, like, or like if someone's like, yo, have you heard of Cream? I'm like, yeah, that's my dude. Like it makes a difference. But if you're like, if you got like a weird vibe, you're like you have a hard time like fully co-signing someone when you just feel like the vibes are off, like, or like you saw something online and it was like, like, you know what I mean? It's weird, but like I just feel, to me, I like can sense that stuff. So I judge people a lot on that, and they may not be like there may be a million other DJs, but I'm like, no, like this dude's trustworthy. He's not a dick. Like, you know, he can DJ. Like maybe that's just me, and other people don't care about that shit. But like to me, I'm like, no, I can tell this guy's good. Like he's a good dude. Like, and that means a lot to me. So maybe I'm an alien, but that's just me.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge core part of our business. That's for sure. So you're definitely not alone in that.
Well, that makes me feel good, because I always feel like maybe I'm just like like I have this like weird extra antenna that I'm like.
Well, we read rooms for a living, so like it's only natural that you're gonna read people. You know.
That's true. I never thought about that. Ooh, you blew my mind with that one. I never tied those two things together, but that's true. Cause I'll be like looking down and like not even have to look up and know how that song landed. Like I tell that
Right.
people, young guys all the time, they're just like, I prepared 30 songs and they're just running down the freaking USB stick, like not looking up. And I know immediately if I fucked up, I'll be like, ooh, like,
Nope.
okay,
We got to get out of here.
Yeah. You don't even have to look at the room. You could just, it's like a palpable energy or like a reaction or like.
It's crazy that you could like feel it. You would literally feel that. Why is that? That's insane.
You could put a blindfold on and be like, oh, that worked. Like, like, I don't know. It's just weird. But I think that goes along with like life. That's weird that you said that. Cause now oh shit. Now I'm going to think about that. Good,
man.
I got something positive out of this podcast. Say that I'm going home with a new one. So that's good. See what I mean? Good energy. It breeds good energy. So it's good stuff.
All right, man. We've kept you pretty long here, so I think we're gonna wrap it up. But huge shout, thank you, Scooter, for jumping on with us. Is there anything else that you want to promo?
Yeah.
You have any shows coming up or anything? We're gonna put the Patreon links for sure in the show notes. So if you guys want to check that out, you could definitely just click the link. We'll put it in our Instagram as well.
I have a Chainsmokers remix I'll be sending out like for free to everybody of the new single. And then shoot, man. I'm always working on stuff, but yeah, just the Patreon and then March is insanely busy for me. Like bunch of travel events for like there's 2 big weddings I'm doing, and then I'm doing South Carolina this month and Florida, Jersey, and Philly. So there's dates scattered up and down the Eastern Seaboard this month. No Vegas yet, but hopefully soon.
When you get that Vegas booking, it's gonna be we're gonna celebrate it with you.
I'm gonna be like a giddy little kid. I'll be like, make your flights now. Like, like bring out tons of people. No, that'd be dope. But no, I appreciate you guys so much. Cause like we're both on the Eastern Seaboard. Like we don't see each other face to face very often, but I like I said, like linking up with like cool people, and we're all busy. So it's not out of like not wanting to do it for me. It's just like sometimes we're just busy, but I appreciate you guys having me on. Like shout out to all the Jersey, New York homies, like all the young producers you guys are always working with. Like you, Cream, I'm playing your shit all the time too. So like mad love to you guys, and hopefully we get to see each other again in person soon. And
yeah, man, we'll talk offline. We'll get another birch date in the calendar for sure. So you guys can come check out Scooter in Jersey.
Word. And then the summer, Jersey Shore stuff, and like there's summer gigs that always get like nutty. So like there's a million other places in the summer that open up. So yeah, we can do some stuff sometime in the summer, hang out, or go shoot the shit, have some drinks.
Hell yeah. All right, man. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. My name's Kareem.
Gary W.
Scooter, peace.
Scooter, man. Have a good night. Thanks for having me.